final hour upon us. Alec Lewis of The Athletic will be joining me in about 15-ish minutes. We got Vikes Bites. I got some talkbacks and I want to roll through. But first, the analyst, Pete Bercich at Pete Bercich via X. Thanks to Suke Up Manufacturing. Pete Bercich, weekly guest, usually recapping the game from the day before, but in this case, leading you up to ultimately the boom and then sitting shotgun with PA down in Arizona. How you doing, Pete?
Good, man. Where the hell is the play-by-play guy? He's like right down the hall, and he's not. What the hell is he doing?
Well, have you
sleeping?
Have you checked the hot tub?
You know what? There's a series of hot tubs in this compound. There's so I can only see about half a dozen of them, and there's probably another 24 of them I can't see. So I'll have to go. I don't know. Do I want to go look? No.
No, you probably don't.
Yeah, no, I think I'll just stay here.
In this case, I think that's the best choice. You got any gut vibes on what the crowd mix is going to look like tonight? I was talking with PA about that to open the show, and I know I've seen it. A ton of people are heading down there today, so there's going to be this purple rush to State Farm Stadium later for the game. But you think maybe it's a Vikings heavy crowd?
Even if it's even partially Vikings heavy, and then you wonder about the status of the LA fans. I mean, for them, it's a matter of, okay, I want to go see my team play, and then you got to buy a ticket, and then you got to buy either fly or drive 5.5 hours to get out here. And with all the craziness going on there, I just don't. It's gonna be a weird game. Is it gonna be as weird as us playing the New York Giants, in Detroit? Maybe, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see. But I don't know. I talked a little bit to Byron Murphy about that last night, and he was really on and ready to go, which made me feel good. But that guy was dialed in. He's like, listen, I played in a playoff game my rookie year when he was here at Arizona. It's the only other game that he's played in. This is his second playoff game, and it was in LA against the Rams, and they lost.
Yep. So
he's like, he kind of has that, well, we got him back on the home turf, and home turf for him being State Farm Stadium. And I'm excited because that group, the DBs, the cornerbacks in particular, need to have a great night tonight. They're facing a very good wide receiving core that is very physical. So the physicality, if we can match it, which we have in the past with teams, will look a lot better than we did the first time we played it.
Do you have confidence that we can affect Matthew Stafford? Talking with Lieber a bit about it last segment is, that immobility factor, and we had talked about it into the first matchup, and suddenly the quick game was working. It's yards after catch, and they kind of put one on us. Surprisingly, Puka able to play and all of that, but no surprises here. Can we affect Matthew this evening?
Well, here's the thing. Sean McVay knows who he is too, and that's what's built into their system. Is they will 3-step drop, 1-2-3 plant throw, and which means even if you're free, it's hard to get to the quarterback. They'll run jet sweeps, they'll run bootlegs, throwbacks, kind of throwback screens. They'll do all these types of things to get the ball to Nakua, who's kind of a running back on the edges kind of thing. But they're doing all that to protect Stafford. The time that we have to put pressure on him is whenever he takes a 5- and 7-step drop.
Yeah.
Now we can help ourselves by keeping him in third and medium, third and long, which means you got to tackle and do a good job on first and second down. But yeah, I believe we can get to him. And that's the only real way. I think on his spectrum, you look at what he did against San Francisco, where he should have thrown 2 interceptions in the first quarter of that game. They played quarters, threw some things at him I don't think he was ready for. And then you go back a few weeks and look at him against the Buffalo Bills, where he was just absolutely unconscious. He was on fire. He was just sitting back there and throwing darts. So that's kind of the full spectrum of Stafford that you can see. Right? One game they scored 44 points, 7 of which was on a punt block for touchdown. So, it's just, let's just say it's 37. And then they score 6, I believe, or 9 against San Francisco. So, yeah, there's a whole gamut with which I think he can look and this offense can perform. It's about being physical. It's about literally beating the tar out of the guy in front of you and winning that battle, whether you're DB, safety, your corner, or whatever. It's kind of like what we have seen out of our team. You play a physical Detroit team, it messes with the timing, it messes with the flow. We have to do that to this Rams offense, and we'll see to what extent. I feel good about it because of how well our defense played for Detroit for most of the game.
Yeah.
If they come out with that type of physicality and tackle as well as they did early on against Detroit, because, I mean, Kyron Williams is good, right? But he's not as good as that cat that got running around in Detroit. I'll just say that.
Well, and I must just be the only one. Just into this game, it's hit me that Kyron, and you're right. I mean, I don't think he's in the same conversation as a Jahmyr Gibbs. It's just I'm thinking
he's very good though.
He is, and he's a guy that if you get that going, and he's just going to get you 4 yards a clip, that can be a significant concern tonight. Blake Cashman back in the mix. And you're right, the Vikings held Jahmyr Gibbs to like 3.5 yards a carry until the dam broke late third quarter. So that kind of lends to some confidence, certainly.
Right. Well, and here's the other thing is that in that first game, they had 87 yards of rushing in the first half total. That's him and Puka Nacua, and that's everything together. Right. So that tells you what they tried to do.
Yeah.
They tried to run the ball early, and then wear down that, and we did wear down. I mean, this is the one game where I wrote in my notes after watching the film, 8 weeks ago, yeah, we looked tired at the end. We wore out. That was obviously 2 games in 4 days, and they were smart about it. They just ran the ball, kept our defense on the field, but still were able to end with points on these drives. By the way, we helped a ton of them on. I mean, we have a 3rd and 7 holding penalty on that second TD drive. We had another pass interference on later on. End of the game, first drive, first thing we do is we had 12 men in the huddle. We had a lot of penalties that sustained drives for them in that first game. And so that's another huge part of tonight is just the pre-snap penalties, making sure we don't have any of those, which, again, that goes back to the crowd noise, which I think will be okay. But that was their plan the first time we played them, and we'll see. I mean, again, if we can hold those runs to 1 or 2 yards early on and make them 3rd and 6, right, instead of 3rd and 3,
yeah,
it makes all the difference in the world.
Kind of the theme, last 1 or 2 for you here, Pete. Kind of the theme this morning has really been taking kind of the pressure off Sam. Sam's got to do some work. He's got to get the footwork right. He's got to find those guys and not make the same mistakes he made on Sunday. But I think that we could help. 2 of the worst games that the Vikings have had this season in terms of time of possession was the 26 minutes at the Rams and the 23 this last game against Detroit is in part of taking the pressure off of Sam. Are we going to be able to run a little bit on these guys? I know Cam Akers might be ill. I've heard a little bit about that. And of course, Aaron Jones is banged up. Talked about that with Lieber. But in the end, I want to see see this be an Aaron Jones opus type of game.
Yeah, I think if Aaron Jones faces the Lions again and he's feeling better, then he had some plays where I think if it was earlier in the season he would have broke them for big. As far as that goes, Nordy, it's about completions and efficiency. I mean, against Detroit, yeah, we didn't have the clock, or 24 minutes on the clock, but how many incompletions did we throw? Yeah. Right? I mean, we were completing at 40-some%. That has to change. It's going to be different. Akella Witherspoon and Darius Williams and Kobe Durant, Cam Curl, they're good, but they're not like the guys in Detroit. They at least they haven't shown it on film. They don't roll up and jam at the line of scrimmage, and they're physical at the point of attack. They play zone. So it's outside of their character. So what the Rams have to figure out is, okay, this works and helps slowing down the Vikings, but can we replicate it?
Yeah.
Right? Can we replicate what the Lions did? They're a 5-man rush, 3 under 3 deep on base downs a lot. What worries me is just the guys up front. They're a better group up front, right? Byron Young and Jared Verse are very good, but Kobe Turner is a very, very good pass rusher in the inside. So our guards need to be on their marks tonight. That's the part that worries me, is just them getting pressure up the gut. I'm not worried about as much as our receivers. And as soon as I see Sam Darnold, sling a ball across the field in a tight zone or in a tight window, I'll relax. But until then, I'm not gonna. Right? I can't. Everything you saw a week ago was off. So until I see that, that throw and catch and pitch and catch on the money and that machine running again, I'm going to be a little bit concerned. I think we can do it. And if we can just make throws and completions, then that time of possession will not get as out of balance as it was.
You're the best, man. Have fun tonight in the booth. Let's see a Vikings victory, and we'll catch up later this week. If the Vikings win, we're headed to Philly, which has its own little boogeyman history to it. But let's focus on getting the win.
That when we get there. Hey, I see a gray bearded man with a bandana on, but he's swimming in the pond or at the pool on the golf course.
Does he?
And so I don't know if that's PA or not. I can't quite tell.
Does he look lost?
Well, I don't know. He looks more like a manatee floating around. So I don't know if he's lost. I mean, he looks like he's enjoying himself.
Yeah, maybe he's in the...
I better go check on him.
All right. Thanks, Pete. See you later.
All right. See ya.
That's Pete Bercich, Vikings radio analyst. Maybe he's in the perfect spot right now, swimming in the pond. When we return, we'll stay with Arizona. We'll stay with Vikings Rams, and this time it'll be The Athletic's Alec Lewis joining us. Thanks to Sukup Manufacturing for bringing us Pete Bercich. Alec Lewis, and a new piece that he put out on The Athletic this morning. We'll talk about that in the game next.
And before we go to break, the fan wants to give you a shot to put $1,000 in your hand with our national cash contest. Enter the keyword green at KFAN.com now for your shot at winning. That's keyword green. Enter it now at KFAN.com. Head over to our contest page and enter for your chance to win a pair of passes for an early screening of the new historical thriller September 5 in theaters January 17th. That's KFAN.com. Keyword contest to enter now.
Free iHeartRadio app, the Talkback Machine. Let's listen to one or two here. And then actually, Alec's going to join us during the final segment. A little bit of a schedule mishap that will be rectified. But we'll do Vikes Bites in just a moment. Let's check the Talkback Machine, though.
Hey guys, Ralph from Malacca, man. Skull Vikes, love the show. I think we're going to be okay. I think Darnold just needs to stay out of his head, make some good passes, maybe do the same thing that they did to us last time, just some quick hitters, and let's see what happens. And I think a good alliteration with McVay would be, let's manhandle McVay. Oh. Peace, guys. Skull.
That's infinitely mangle McVay. I mean, that sounds awful.
That sounds a little bit more brutal.
I don't want to hurt the guy. I just want to beat his team.
What about Stifle Stafford? What about that?
Stifle Stafford. I like that. See, everyone's better at alliteration today than I am. Back to the Talkback Machine.
Go Vikes.
Turn your radio down.
In my 53 years of following the Vikes, Cam Robinson is one of the best free agent pickups to replace Darisaw that I've almost seen in my lifetime. Kudos to Kwesi.
Yeah, thanks for the talkback. I agree. Cam Robinson, again, midstream, the ability to, you get Darisaw and the awful injury at SoFi on Thursday night, and then Quisenberry has to do his thing, but to be able to, you pick him up like the following Monday or Tuesday, Kwesi makes the move, and then he's starting in that Indianapolis game and hasn't really missed a beat since. The penalties have provided the issues. That's the thing with Cam, is Cam's always been sturdy. He's started a ton of games. He's not awful. He's not the best of the best. And that's really what we've gotten from him in absence of Darisaw. So certainly a significantly, just an absolute home run given what we gave up, given on the fly and the situation of it. Indeed, it's a home run transaction for Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. Let's jump into some Vikes Bites. Vikes Bites brought to you by Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef. You can shop online. A box of meat will show up at your doorstep. You can go to your local Coburns, your local co-ops as well. And they're proud sponsors. You know, they love Vikes. They love the Vikings. They're a Clearwater, Minnesota company. They support Vikes Bites. They're also a proud sponsor of Gopher Athletics. Where are we headed to Vikes Bites style first, Max?
We're sticking with the offensive line since the talkbacker just brought it up. The Rams have one of the best offensive lines in the NFL, ranking 6th in sacks surrendered this season. The Vikings know that all too well, as they were not able to get to Stafford not even one time when the two teams met just a couple months ago. It is the only game this season the Vikings did not log at least one sack. Weirdly, this is a weird stat, Nordo. Stafford is consistently one of the best passer ratings against the blitz in the league. I think they said this year was like his 5th or 6th time having a plus 100 passer rating against the blitz. But if they can get to him, he has one of the worst passer ratings in the NFL under duress. He was down there with the likes of Mac Jones on the Jacksonville Jaguars and some other bottom feeders. So if they can get to him, he's one of the worst under duress. The problem is, not a lot of teams get to him.
So he's elite against the blitz, but he's awful when pressured.
Yeah.
So when he's forced out of his spot, I mean, he's old. He's been doing this for a long time. That was what was so frustrating into that game, Max. The first one is the Vikings, and Vikings fans know this, during his tenure with the Lions, I mean, just chalk up at least 3. I mean, you just get out of bed, you're getting Stafford 3 times. And the Vikings set their franchise record. I forget what year it was, 18 or 19. Danielle Hunter had 3.5 sacks, and he had a fumble return touchdown in that game.
Wow.
But it was a franchise record 10 or 10.5 sacks they put on Stafford that day. I mean, just think about having to just go home, kiss the gal and the kids, and then just find the coldest water possible and just sit in it for hours.
As long as possible.
And he was older back then. And now, at his current state, he's been so good for so long, but that plays into it. And even if you're not, and I'm glad you mentioned the under duress, the pressure stats part of that, because I don't think we're going to have 5 sacks tonight.
No.
I don't think we will. But if we can pressure him and affect him, that's kind of why I've been using that term all morning, is you have to just affect him to the point. You have to knock him off his spot, put some contact on him, after a throw within, we're not doing roughing the passer bits here, but certainly making him uncomfortable. He will throw it to the other team. He will throw a ton of incomplete passes. He will get jittery, and he's going to screw up. You just got to affect him. And the Vikings weren't good enough at doing that week 8. They have to be tonight. Season's on the line, according to everybody. It's got to happen tonight if the Vikings are going to win. Vikes Bites!
Vikes Bites! Vikes will be looking for a little red zone redemption this week in Nordo. They scored 0 touchdowns on 4 trips to the red zone against the Lions last week. The Vikings' 55% TD rate is 10th among the 14 playoff teams heading into the weekend. The Rams have the 6th best red zone defense in the league when it comes to TDs surrendered.
Yeah, and it's something that it's tough to pretend that. I mean, it's tough to pretend that Detroit game didn't happen. It's tough to pretend. I heard you were on the morning show talking about Nosferatu and horror movies and things. I mean, you can put that Detroit game certainly in the Nosferatu genre of spookiness and just terrible, scary things that happened to the Vikings with how awful that game is. But it was the 0-4 in the red zone. It was the 0-3 in goal-to-go situations. Prior to the Lions game, Max, I don't have this in front of me. I'm going to shoot from the hip/lip. The Vikings in their previous 6 or 7 games, they were 11 for 13 with red zone touchdowns. So 11 touchdowns and 13 opportunities. It was some ungodly good number in that respect. And to see the malaise, to see the incompetence, and really specifically, I've been hard on the offensive line this morning a bit. And they have to have a better game, certainly, but the incompetence from the QB in that spot was just unacceptable. And so, and the Rams are tough inside the 20. So that absolutely has to be better. Now, I will say this: the Vikings were 9th or 10th in the red zone into the Lions game, and they left it after the 0-4 19th or something like that.
Yeah.
So it tells you that just those 4 trips, how close some of these percentage numbers are. And certainly, 10th out of 14 is what you said in terms of the playoff teams. It has to be that's where, and we'll talk with Alec more about it. For me, if the Vikings win tonight, they'll be flawless in the red zone. and they're 50% on third down. And that's not even, I'm not asking them to be amazing. That's the key here is Sam Darnold does not have to go out of body. He just has to be the guy that we saw in the border battle. He just has to be the guy we saw at Seattle. And part of that is just being competent in the red zone and moving the chains. And that's, oh, wow. Everyone just hold on to something here. The earthquake of knowledge is coming your way. How enlightening, Nordo, on a Monday. But it can be that simple. That's just my point. I'm glad you hit me with that red zone stat. That has to be, they just 50% on third down and flawless in the red zone, and the Vikings will move on to face Philly at Lincoln Financial. Vikes Bites!
Vikes Bites! Got one more for you, Nordo. It's kind of weird. Obviously, a lot of focus heading into this game is on the Rams' offense. You got Stafford, Puka Nacua, even limiting Kyron Williams, who has been instrumental to their success, especially towards the end of the season. But shockingly, it feels like Cooper Kupp, of all people, is flying under the radar. And just to remind people, this is a former Triple Crown winner. Obviously, he didn't have his best season this year, 6 TDs, 710 yards. I think he only played something like 12 games. But playoff Kupp is a different beast. He has the third most receiving yards per game in NFL history at 93 a clip. I mean, that's absurd numbers right there, Nordo. And obviously, we know Puka had an insane debut last year in the playoffs, but Cooper Kupp, of all people, flying a little bit under the radar, not hearing him mentioned nearly as enough as a point of concern for the Vikings. Two things. I'll get to that. Two Harbors guy text in, Max, please let Nordo know that Nosferatu analogy just don't fit the picture. Is it not a horror movie? It is a horror movie. There is one other very crucial element that is blended in with that horror that does not fit the analogy, but the horror part does. The horror part does fit. It gets a little raunchy. It's horror. Oh, it does. It's horror and raunchiness, which doesn't fully match up with the analogy. But I was letting you cook. All right. Well, and that's what I do with PA once in a while, is I'll let him just make the most asinine and inaccurate comment about something. The type of comment that shows he hasn't watched new television or new movies in a while. Still making Horatio Caine CSI references, and I just let it happen. And I think you played it the right way. That was perfect. Right. Let me sound like an idiot, and then I'll come back to it. I'm always happy to admit when I'm wrong. Okay, so forgetting Nosferatu, but I think people get the point. Yeah. Now with Cooper. He's not flying under my radar, man. I mean, whether it's Kyron and my obsession with stopping the run tonight, and the fact is, I don't care. Cooper has had 3 straight games, 3 targets. I think a total of 4 catches in his last 3 games. Maybe he's old, maybe he's injured. He's been dealing with a lot of nick-ups in recent years. I get it. He's not flying under my radar. You're going to hear Cooper's name mentioned 7, 8, 9 times. He's going to get the targets tonight. And if things are going the right way for us, regardless, he's going to have to, because that means that Stafford and this quick game, pushing it to Puka as often as they possibly can, that they're going to have to spread it around a bit. And Cooper is still game. He just got a week off to chill, and he's going to be ready, man. But those numbers in historical context with what he's done from a career standpoint, the Triple Crown that you mentioned, the yards per game, and how steady Eddie he's been for the duration of his career. No. We do not discount Cooper Kupp in this house. You got to be ready for that tonight. Absolutely. But yeah, just nutty. The numbers and just kind of the fact that Puka in such a short period of time has really become the A topic of the receiver group. And, but Cooper, no, pay attention to him. He can make magic in a hurry. And, if that week did anything for him health-wise, he's going to be ready to go tonight. Thank you for the Vikes Bites, Max. Thank you, Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef, for being an awesome partner with Vikes Bites, awesome partner for Gopher Athletics as well. And when we return, we're going to check in with Alec Lewis of The Athletic. He's out in Arizona. So final segment, 9 to noon, we'll check in with Alec, talk about the game, and a fresh piece that he put out on The Athletic this morning. Don't leave. It's 9 to noon on The Fan. Final segment, 9 to noon. Vikings at the Rams, but in Arizona, wild card weekend comes to a conclusion tonight with our favorite team. 5 p.m. pregame right here on your home for Vikings football, The Fan, Vikings Radio Network at 6, and the Boom shortly after 7.
with PA and Pete and Ben. And covering the game for The Athletic, theathletic.com, Alec Lewis, at Alec_Lewis via X, joining me now. How you doing, man?
I'm great, Nordo. I don't know how I'm going to waste the next 7 hours, but this is helping, so I appreciate you having me.
No, and I'm glad you had the time, and that's my favorite thing. You do a terrific job covering the team, but there is also this inherent excitement for it. And how, weird circumstances, tragedy taking place in SoCal, so you got to move the game, a 14-win team playing on Wild Card Weekend, that feels weird. But all things considered, when you join the feast and even now and texting with you over the weekend, there's an inherent excitement about this, and I love hearing that from you.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you saying that, but I was telling somebody, I think it was last night, and I was just talking to them about this team, and I've said this on the radio before, but there are teams you cover, and this is, I'm young, so I haven't done this forever, but you just feel a special energy from that group, and that's the way this team has been from pretty early on, going back even to kind of the spring and summer, and so yeah, you just try to take advantage of the opportunity to even get to do this. And for me, that just displays itself in the form of, I just enjoy it. I enjoy going to the games. I enjoy being around this team, this coaching staff. It's been really great to work with. And there's nothing, I'm a sports fan at heart. So to be able to be in Arizona, for a game like this is pretty cool, even though obviously, like you mentioned, the circumstances are awful just for those in LA.
Absolutely. And, before I hate to bring it down and then bring it up again as we find our way to kickoff, but you did write and part of what you do, the ability to tell a story, the ability to kind of connect Vikings fans, not just with the X's and O's of wins and losses. And it's been a fun season and it's a cool team, a team to root for and be excited about. But, this most recent piece that you put out this morning on The Athletic kind of brings us back to the summer and brings us back to the loss of Kyrie Jackson and his family in particular as they have continued to follow the Purple in 2024. Tell me about this piece and kind of what drew you to the idea of it and what fans can expect when they read it on theathletic.com, catching up with Kyrie Jackson's family being a part of this 2024 journey for the Vikings.
Yeah, so much of the way I've thought about this team is just a specific and distinct connectivity, and that is between coaches, but that is among players. It just feels there's a camaraderie with this group that differs from the first 2 years that I was in Minnesota and really all 5 years that I've covered professional sports. And one of the, I think reasons for that, and the coaches and players have admitted this, is they were forced to kind of just lean on each other in the aftermath of Kyrie Jackson's passing in July. And so, I don't know. I say this all the time. It's like the game, sometimes you can forget, but the people, you just don't, and their stories and what they go through. And so for me, I just was curious, how the family, Kyrie Jackson's parents and his younger brother, Colston, how they felt about this year. And you come to find out by spending time with them, just how much of a rock the organization has been for them and how much, in some of their darkest times, it has been people within this organization that have given them any semblance of joy. And so for me, to me, as I listen to them talk about this team and about this organization and about Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi, it's hard not to endear you more to just what these people stand for beyond just the football games. I think his mom said to me, the organization's support does not feel like checking a box. It feels genuine. And it's a great reflection on the organization. And I think that starts at the top with ownership. But it also, to me, it's just a core aspect of what has galvanized this group to accomplish what they had to this point.
Yeah, and you did talk to Kyrie's mother really shortly after the accident, and then you had the opportunity to kind of catch up again. Have you kind of felt the evolution of his family, grieving but still living? How is that? What has that been like? Kind of catching up in the summer in the face of something that's awful and life changing, but now in this spot.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's I don't feel as if from talking to them in the aftermath of it and then flying to DC last weekend, I don't know if I could say there's been a straight line progression or growth. I mean, I don't know. I think grief, probably you talk to people that have experienced much more than I probably have in my life. You just hear that. I mean, there are days, there are moments that pop up at any given time from any specific situation and can really get you. But I just, like, so much of what that story came to be for me is like when you are grieving such a tragedy in terms of losing your child who had accomplished as much as he did or he had. I mean, it's like finding joy at any time, at any moment as well. And I think that's what this Vikings team has done for them, both in their support, but also like watching them celebrate on the field, watching them win the games, watching Sam Darnold get doused with water in the locker room and Kevin O'Connell look upon it like a proud dad. Like, I think they've really like felt a warmth in seeing some of that stuff. And I know they'll be watching tonight.
Well, terrifically stated and incredibly well-written article, and I encourage people to check that out on The Athletic. I'm glad you got that story and put the work into that. And there's, I mean, just absolutely just no way to transition out of that. Yeah. But that is a part of just, again, a 14-2 season and a team that has experienced so many of those highs and those moments of joy after what really was such a tragic summer. And the story of the 2024 Vikings leading them down to Arizona, just kind of 10,000-foot view, top of head. What pops in your mind about this matchup? And we saw week 8 what happened. Now we get another crack at McVay's bunch. What are you thinking about down in Arizona with this game tonight?
Yeah, well, for me, I mean, it starts with Sam Darnold, obviously. Can he be more accurate than he was last Sunday night and like he's been throughout most of this year? And I expect him to be just because his story, his entire past, like the theme of Sam Darnold's career in the NFL and of this season is resilience. Like that's why the Vikings were as successful this year as they were. And so I expect them to be more accurate tonight. I expect them to respond from last Sunday, but my mind goes there at first, and then it segues to the offensive line. There is a serious challenge, as I'm sure you've talked about over the course of the show, with this Rams front. Jared Verse, Braden Fitz, Kobe Turner, and Byron Young are young, athletic, physical, tough, and if you're not leaning on those guys and you're not taking the sting out of that front, it's going to be a very hard challenge for Sam Darnold to be in the type of rhythm that you'd want him to be. This time around, as opposed to week 8, the Vikings don't have Christian Darrisaw, but they do have Dalton Reisner at right guard. So how they protect tonight is probably the number 2 facet of what I'm watching. And then defensively, can this Vikings defense find a way to limit Puka Nacua? There has not been a receiver who has received a higher target share since week 8 of his routes run than Puka Nacua. He is their guy. I know Cooper Kupp has been unbelievably impactful over the years for them, but Puka is as dynamic as they come right now, and so limiting him to me is going to be essential. Those are really the 3 things top of mind. And then I'll say this just because I don't know how much time we have. Like, I've heard a lot, and I've had a lot of people ask me about, like, if they lose tonight, I mean, I'll be so disappointed. What a disappointment of a season. And I just vehemently want to push back on that because I know fans are going to react however they want to react, and they have a right to do that, and that's what makes this so great. But you have a team that entered a season with a 6.5 over/under win total, and a team that won 14 games, far beyond the most rosy expectations. And so a loss in a neutral site game to a Sean McVay, Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua team, to me would not signal disappointment. It would be a tough loss. It would be a very abrupt ending to what has been such a special season, but I don't think at all that should take away for the job and the work and the overachievement that this season has already been. Again, not to take anything away from the importance of tonight. I just feel like that's how I feel. That's how I how I feel watching the course of the season, knowing all the data points. So I just wanted to say it a little bit.
No, I appreciate that. And one more for you here. It's Alec Lewis, The Athletic, theathletic.com. You can follow him, Alec_Lewis via X. The way I kind of framed it up earlier this hour, and it may be too simplistic as you dig into things, but I'm just thinking if this squad is 50% on third down tonight and flawless in the red zone, I mean, the focus on the defense, limiting Puka, I'm completely in on that. I'm looking at Cooper having a huge factor in this game, I should say, and all of that. But I'm just looking, if offensively we're 50% on third down and we're flawless in the red zone, I think it could be that simplistic in terms of a Vikings victory. You think I'm making it too simple when I put it that way?
No, I don't think so. I mean, the red zone, was so fascinating because it was such a Sunday night in Detroit was just so abysmal. It was one of two games that Kevin O'Connell has coached in his time in Minnesota where they've reached the red zone 4 times and not scored a touchdown. And then for those that have been so many goal-to-go situations as they were, I mean, it's just like I don't want to say outlier anomaly as if like it's this thing that can never happen again, because if you don't execute, it will happen again. But I do think it's a pivotal aspect of the game, as is third down, because, I mean, you know this, Nordo, having watched longer than I have. Like, these games, and it's so cliche, but they come down to those moments where it's can you convert in these tight downs in important situations? Can your star players make plays? And the Vikings have loads of them. So I would be pretty surprised if there were multiple red zone opportunities and they can't find a way to punch it in. And that's just the faith I have in this staff. So yeah, I think you're right to mention Cooper Kupp, but I think defensively stopping Kyron Williams is going to be tough and it's going to be huge. But yeah, if we look at the stats after the game and we look at turnovers first and foremost, and then we look at red zone efficiency and third down efficiency, you probably have a pretty good indication of who won the game and why.
Hey, I appreciate you carving out some time for me this morning. Try to keep that energy, kind of keep it level as long as you can. It's going to be a long day, but looking forward to reading your stuff after hopefully a Vikings victory. Enjoy your time down in Arizona, sir.
Appreciate it, Nordo. Yeah, I got to calm down. I got to go eat. I got to go run. I don't know. I just waste the time somehow, but I can't wait for it. So thanks for having me, as always. Appreciate it, Nordo.
Absolutely. That's Alec Lewis of The Athletic, theathletic.com. And that puts a wrap on 9 to noon today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you to everybody for joining. PA, Bercich, Lieber, sharing in the misery of a certain Packers fan in Dave Sinekin. But here we are with an opportunity to move on. All things considered, bad night in Detroit, bad 5 days earlier in the season. Just go down to Arizona, just do what got you there, and you're going to be moving on to face Philadelphia a week from now at Lincoln Financial. Thanks for hanging out with me today, Max Fuller producing. It's game day, 5 p.m. pregame, 7 p.m.-ish. Kickoff. Be here for the Boom. It's your home for Vikings football, The Fan. Have an awesome afternoon. The program is next. You're listening to The Fan.
Podcast today's Paul Allen Show, or listen back to previous show and interviews by going to the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.